Today, I want to introduce the concept of select, and select is one of the critical concepts under data management, and I'll explain why. Assuming you are given a data set, for instance, a data like this one, but you are given an instruction to do analysis, but again, with your analysis, the person who gives you the work doesn't want to know everything about everyone in this data set. They maybe want to know how is the salary distribution, for instance, not for everyone, but for individuals maybe who are females. Or they want to understand what is the education level for males. Analyze education level, but not for everyone, but they tell you focus more on males. Someone might even come and say, okay, analyze current salary in this data set, but not salary for everyone. Salary for, let's say, managers. Or you want to understand education for clerks or education for managers. So when you talk about identifying patterns, or you want to analyze your data based on certain demographic, that is the point whereby you will apply the concept of select. What it means, you'll have to select individuals who are supposed to meet the condition that you have. So for instance, if you want to select males, you'll have to choose somebody who meets a condition for being a male. Now, in this program of ours, I want us to understand the concept or the environment behind data analysis, so that when we will be applying the skills of data management, at least we have a chance of coming up with some insight, so that we don't just say select and then we move on. With that said and done, let me first introduce the concept of descriptive analysis. And the essence here is, I want us to know how to perform descriptive analysis, so that when we apply select, we will now be running the concept of select based on a certain descriptive. Now, remember, we are not doing data analysis. I'm just trying to teach you select. But for you to understand select very well, you must have at least some clue or concept behind descriptive analysis, which of course, there's no choice but to start it now. When you do descriptive analysis, majorly we say this is where you just describe your data. There's nothing much you're saying about your data, but you just want to see how is the distribution look like. Okay. And in terms of performing any descriptive analysis, you need to be guided. There are some principles that guide you. And those principles are subject to the structure of your data. And when I talk about structure, a data point, or when you're having a data like this one, there are two ways on which their data can be structured. We have what we call categorical data. We have what we call categorical data. In other words, they call it discrete. I'm sure that is not a new term. I'm sure you have heard it before. So we say the first structure of a data can be in the form of categoricals. The second structure, you can have data point in the form of continuous. So we have continuous data, and we also have categorical data. Continuous data and also categorical data. Let's now contextualize in terms of descriptive statistics or descriptive analysis. When your data is in the form of categorical or discrete, when you're having data points which are in the form of categorical or discrete, the type of descriptive analysis that you will do, you will be extracting what we call frequency table. When you're dealing with categorical variables, you will now perform or extract frequency table. When you talk about frequency table, this is where you're just extracting frequency. And I'll use an example. A good example of a categorical data, you have a variable like gender. Why are we saying gender is a categorical variable? Because in terms of the responses, somebody can either belong in one of the categories provided. Either you are a male, that means you belong to the category male, or you are a female, you belong to a category female. The same way it sounds, category. So the way people are responding, they're responding based on categories that are provided there. All those variables that have different categories for someone to select, we call them categorical variable. And the essence of descriptive analysis, this is where you just say, how many times does males appear? How many times does female appear? When you talk about the number of times that something appear, that is what we refer as frequency. Apart from just saying the number of times that something appear, you can even report in terms of percentage. So that you say, yes, males appear, let's say 200 times in this data set of mine, which accounts for, let's say, 60% of gender distribution. That is just an example. Take home here is, when you're doing descriptive analysis and your variable is categorical, now you know that is the point you'll be extracting frequency. Let's talk about continuous data. When you talk about continuous data, these are data points whereby you have the exact value of a response. I'll use an example based on the data set that we have. The first respondent, for instance, if you check, maybe they're earning around $55,000. That $55,000 is an exact point or an exact value. So if you come and look at salary, you are seeing values. Of course, all these values are unique, or most of them are unique. So you're not going to analyze these data by extracting frequency. Because if you extract frequency, you'll just be getting 1, 1, 1, 1, because maybe each of all those points are unique. So when you're dealing with continuous data, just like the current salary or the salary that we're having here, the type of analysis that you will do, you will perform what you call measures of central tendency. When you're dealing with continuous data, you will perform what we call measures of central tendency. Who can tell me an example of a measure of central tendency? Anyone who remembers measures of central tendency? Okay, let me start with Jerry. Jerry, tell me, what is an example of a measure of central tendency based on your statistics one?
I'd say median and mood.
Perfect. Good. Any other person who wants now that Nani Jerry has said something? Good. So Lorraine talks about mean. Yes. So in short, when you are running continuous data or a variable which is in continuous form, you'll be talking about things like mean, mode, median, also include things like standard deviation, and so forth. Now, let's use a practical example so that we see how to exercise or how to run the descriptive statistics for both an example. I'll use an example of a categorical variable, one of them, and also for a continuous. Now, if you come to our data sets, you will appreciate that gender is a categorical variable. Employment category is also a categorical variable based on the groupings that are there. Minority classification is also a categorical variable. So if I want to analyze these three variables, I will just come here to analyze descriptive statistics, analyze descriptive statistics, and then frequencies. Analyze descriptive statistics, and then frequencies. If I select frequencies, I can be able to transfer gender, which is now one of the categorical variables, to the other side. So depending with what you want, you can either be analyzing your variable one by one, or you can put all of them together. Let me just put one of them, gender, the way it is. I can also come here, there's an option of charts, and I can decide, okay, while I analyze gender, How about I also get some pie chart? Down here, you can say, okay, what values should you be represented in the pie chart? Do you want it to have frequencies or you want it to have percentages? Of course, you can maybe leave it with frequencies. Proceed and click continue, and then go ahead and click OK. If you look at your results, you can see that we have the frequencies in as far as gender distribution is concerned and their respective percentages. We also have the cumulative percentages, and there's a chart here which shows that distribution. From the look of things, it says we have 258 males. That means majority of respondents in this data set are actually males, followed by females. In terms of percentage, the percentages goes 54 against 45. If you want to do for employment category, just come again to analyze, descriptive statistics, and then frequencies. You can either remove gender or you can even still leave it there and then come here and say employment category. Transfer to the other side and proceed and say, okay. In terms of the distribution, it says majority of the respondents are actually clerks. And we are having 363 clericals. Custodials, we have 27. And managers, we have 84. In terms of percentage, you can say 76% of respondents here are clerks. 17 are managers, and only 5% are custodials. I think up to that point, we're good in terms of running descriptive analysis for categorical variables. Let's use an example of a continuous variable. Let's use an example of a continuous variable. And he said, if you're running descriptive statistics for a variable which is in continuous form, you will perform what we call measures of central tendency. How do you go about that? You come here to analyze descriptive statistics, but this time you're not selecting frequency. Instead, you select descriptive. I'll click on descriptive, and then I will come here. So there are two ways. If you're in a position to identify your variable based on the label names, well and good. But if you want to see variable names, the name of the variable, all you have to do is right click while you are this. So when you're seeing this variable listed here, all you have to do is right click and then display variable names. I think it is much easier because you can be able to tell which variable is what. I will select salary. I transfer to the other side and I go ahead and click OK. If you look from the results that I have obtained, it says the mean salary is around $34,000. The maximum salary here is $135,000. The minimum salary is around $15,000. In short, at this level, now we know how to perform these descriptive statistics, again, based on the structure of your data points or the variables. Now that we understand how to run descriptive statistics for categorical and also descriptive statistics for continuous, then let's go back to what we were trying to learn today. And what we are learning is what we call select. Now, remember when I said, assuming I give you a job and I tell you, analyze for me the current salary of individuals in this data set. Analyze for me the current salary of individuals in this data set. But I'm not interested with the males. I only need to understand current salary for females. Now that is where the problem comes, because I don't want to see results for everyone. My instruction is very specific. I only want to see current salary for females. What do you do there? You have now to introduce the concept of select. Instruct the software to go and select only individuals who are females. Now, how do you identify a female? The software can only identify a female based on the values. So remember, when you're coding female as a numeric, this is where now the importance comes in, because you will have to come up with what you call a criteria, and in that criteria you will equate gender with the value that represent a female. So in short, you're going to say gender is equals to 2, because you assign the value of 2 to female. And where do you put that criteria? So for you to apply the concept of select, you will come here under data. Now go to data, select cases, data, select cases, and then you will select the option of if condition is satisfied. So you need to introduce some condition whereby you're saying select this person if they met a certain condition that I'm about to put. What is that condition? The condition is if their gender is the same as number 2. So I'll come here, make sure I click on if condition is satisfied first, and then under this box where you're seeing if, I'll select if, and then what is the condition? I'll click on gender, transfer to the other side, and this is the point whereby I want you to be using your screen. Don't use your keyboard. So in terms of keying in this number, just use the items you're seeing on your screen, and what you're about to do is to equate gender with the value of 2. So I'll say gender equals to 2. Of course, we all know gender equals to 2 means that someone was a female. Click continue, and then okay. Okay, you're not expecting any results because you have not done any analysis. All you have just done, you have just instructed the software that yes, every time moving forward now, the analysis that I'll be doing, don't do analysis for everyone, but instead only focus with individuals who meet that condition, which is gender equals to 2. Now let's go back to the question. What was the question? The question was analyze salary based on females. So at the back of your mind, you now have to remember, how do you analyze salary? First, you'll have to understand the structure of salary. And if I look here, I can see that salary is continuous. If I also look at the side of my computer, I can see there's some people who have been selected out. And these people are the ones who are referred as male. So if you look at males, all of them have been selected out. And even somewhere towards the end of your data set, you can see there's an option of not selected and selected. Meaning if somebody is a male, they have not been selected. So I'll proceed and now run my analysis. And I know now I'm analyzing salary. And salary is a continuous variable. I'll click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then Descriptive. Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then Descriptive. I click on Descriptive. Of course, I add salary inside there, so I don't have to do it again. So I'll just proceed and click OK. If you look at the results presented, the results I'm having here, and if you go and check on the N is not 474. Remember, we talk about N saying it's the population. That means this software has only focused on females. That's why the N is 216. Now, what is the average salary of a female? A female earns around $26,000. The maximum is 58. The minimum is 15. Now, let's do the same for males, now that we know how to do that for females. Actually, before we do for males, let's also check in terms of employment category. Maybe somebody wanted to know, analyze for them salary and also look at employment category. How is the distribution of females across the various employment categories that are there? You'll know very well, employment category is a categorical variable. So what do? The type of analysis that you're going to do will not be what? Measures of central tendency. In as far as employment category is concerned, you will be performing or you'll be extracting frequencies. How do you do that? You come here to analyze descriptive statistics and then select frequencies. Remove gender because you're not analyzing gender again. Since you already have employment category in there, so just proceed and click OK. If you look from these results, it says there are 206 females who are clerks, and there are only 10 females who are managers. So if you look at the result that we've just obtained, we have focused more on the females. Let me do the same, but this time let's focus on the males, and then we do some comparison. So if you want to shift the select and now you handle the males, you will go again to data, select cases, and then you have to change the condition. So you know very well, for you to get a male, the condition must be their gender is the same as 1. So you'll come here under if, and then instead of saying gender equals to 1, remove that 2, replace it with 1. Click continue, and then OK. Click continue, and then OK. You're not expecting any results in terms of analysis is concerned, but rather you have just said that you are selecting individuals who meet a certain condition. What type of analysis do you want to run? You will start with the salary, and we said salary is a continuous. So you'll come here, analyze, descriptive statistics, and then descriptive. Since I have salary there, so I'll just proceed and click OK. Now on average, they're saying the mean salary of a male is around 41,000. The highest is 135, and I also have 19. Let's look at the employment category in terms of distribution. To get the distribution, I will say analyze, descriptive statistics, and then frequencies. If I select frequencies, I can now see employment category is already there, so I'm not worried. I'll just proceed and click OK. And here it says there are 74 managers, 27 custodial, and 157 clerks. Now, we already have these two results. So the next stage or the next thing that I want us to focus on is now the concept of interpretation. Remember, our goal is not just to come up with these results. Anybody can just generate these results. But what separates you and any other person out there is the ability to make sense out of the data. And today, we're going to learn the hard way. So I would want you to tell me. So I'm displaying for you the results that you have obtained, and this is the results for salary for females, and this is also salary for males. In terms of our interpretation, I just want you to focus on salary, and I want someone to tell me or to interpret for me the results. So based on these two tables, I want you to tell me what is happening here, or you can give me a report based on this one. The earlier the better, because today each and everyone in my class must at least respond to a question. So either we do it voluntarily, randomly, or I go step by step by selecting each and every one of you, which I believe the first one is much better. So now, when you're ready, just unmute your mic, or you can raise your hand. There's an option of raising your hand. And then tell me something between the salary distribution of females and salary distribution of males. And here we go. Who wants to say something? Okay. Two seconds so that we have a decision to make here. Anyone? Okay. Then I have no choice but now to select. Let me start with Cynthia. Cynthia, I want you to tell me anything you can tell between what is happening here in the first table and in the second table.
So I'd say that the salaries of men are higher than those of the female. Looking at every single their mean values and the maximum values.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. That is one way of seeing it. So Cynthia has focused on the mean and also on the maximum. Any other person who can see something here? Let me go to Dennis. Dennis, what can you tell me between these two tables? Dennis, we're all waiting for you. Okay, the earlier we do it, the better. Okay, you can see people are now leaving the class. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, let me come to Njeri Kaloki. Tell me something between these two tables.
I'd say that in the company, the minimum amount that a woman earns in that company is 15,000, which is much less in comparison to what the minimum that a guy will earn in that company, which is 19,000. There's a huge difference between the two.
Perfect, perfect. Dennis, I'm still waiting for you. I don't want you to be a spectator. So if you're facing any challenges, you either let me know from the chat section, or make sure you say something between this table and this table. And the more we proceed, the more options are being used. So if you're ready, I want you to tell me what can you tell me between this table and this table? Okay. Let me come to Josie Wanjiru. Tell me something between these two tables.
Okay, I think I don't see anything else apart from what has already been said.
Okay, I think nobody has mentioned about standard deviation. Tell me something about standard deviation.
I can't explain. Maybe someone else can explain that.
Okay. Thank you for the honesty. Now, is there any other person who has something that maybe we're leaving out? Okay. Cynthia, you wanna try?
For the standard deviation, I'd say the salary of the males are distributed further around the mean in comparison to that of the females, meaning that more females earn around 26,000, but not as much males earn around 41,000.
Perfect. That's a good one. Now, I was trying to reiterate on the point of ability to speak or communicate. Of course, if I'm teaching you, of course, I know these things. But the reason why I'm giving you a chance to tell me what is in your mind is not because I'm looking at the right answer, but I'm looking at the ability for you to communicate what you can see. I also believe the reason why all of us were in this class is because you want to gain some skill, knowledge. And when you go out there, you'll be writing reports. You do an analysis and you'll have to write a report. Where will you get those stories? Those stories, you can only learn them from what we are doing here. Now, this is what I have to give you today. If you want to tell stories about data, okay, you need to capitalize on the information that are there. Don't finish your story by just coming up with a general thing. And this is what I mean. If I was to write this report, again, I will first not use the exact words that are here on the table. Don't use the statistic words when you're writing a report. Use English. And when you use English, break down your report bits by bits. One thing you need to know, you will start with the what? The population. So you can say, in this data set, there are more males as compared to females. There are more males compared to females, which means we have 258 males and only 216 females. Why am I saying there are more males than females? Because you know very well, mean is a factor of the population or the N. The more you are, the lower your average will be. The less you are, the higher your average will be. So start by reporting here. Give people some disclaimer. You say, yes, in this data set, there are more males compared to females. And then in terms of mean, I would not advise you to come and tell me the mean salary of male is 41. No. Use the English word here. You can say, on average, the males earn more than the females. On average, the males earn more than the females. If you so wish, that is when now you can go ahead and write what is the average for a male. Now you say males are earning 41, females are earning 26. If you don't want, you can even leave it like that, but at least you'll have this table pasted somewhere there. Someone can come and see, and they will understand what is contained in your report. In short, up to this stage, I've just used two parts of my results. I've looked at the concept of the distribution, and I've looked at the concept of the mean. And again, I've said with the mean, use average. And how do you put it? Just say on average, males are earning more than females. That is nice. When you come to maximum, so after you have reported in terms of mean, come again and report in terms of maximum. And again, I don't want someone to use maximum. Don't use maximum. So let me give you another chance. Anyone who wants to try and report for me in terms of maximum, but again, don't use the word maximum. Tell me a story with this part of maximum. Compare males and females, but don't necessarily use the word maximum. Anyone who wants to try that? AC, I think you're the one who have not said anything. AC, you want to try that?
No, I can't. I don't know.
You can't try. Okay, Rachel? Okay. Now, instead of saying maximum, how about you use the word the highest? Now here you can say the highest paid male is earning $135,000. So instead of just saying maximum male is 135, just say the highest paid male is earning $135,000. On the other hand, you can say here the highest paid female is earning around $58,000. Okay, now that is just what anybody can see. You're seeing 58 and you're seeing 135. And it's a good thing that you're using maximum instead of, sorry, you're using highest paid instead of maximum. The next thing that maybe I will advise you to see, in as far as you're looking at numbers, there's always a relationship between numbers. If you look at 58 and 135, you will note that 58 goes twice, even more than twice, into 135. That is an insight, and that's a story that someone can tell. So how do you report that? You can say maybe the highest paid male is earning twice as much as the highest paid female. Based on the results, the highest paid male, which is 135, is earning twice as much as the highest paid female. I will go to the last part, the second last part, whereby I'll talk about the minimum. And here there's nothing much to say, but rather just say the lowest paid employee is a female. The lowest paid employee is a female. So if you look at the way I've just break down the stories, I've looked at each section. And if I was to write a whole paragraph, I think I already have those words to put there. But if you're just looking at it on a general perspective, you'll just have one line. I don't know how that paper will look like. Let's talk about standard deviation. Now, I understand all of us, maybe here we did studies 1. And in terms of standard deviation, maybe all we remember is maybe the formula. But what I have noticed is sometimes we don't utilize the insight that we get from standard deviation. Now, when you are dealing with standard deviation, there are 2 things that you can be able to get out of the standard deviation. Standard deviation will provide for you 2 main insights. 1, in reporting standard deviation, you will be able to understand something called stability in distribution. I think that's what Cynthia was talking about. The first thing you'll get from standard deviation is the concept of stability. Before I explain, let's look also at the second one. The second thing you'll be able to get for standard deviation is the distribution. So majorly standard deviation will give you 2 things, stability and distribution. Let me explain about stability. The closer the standard deviation towards the mean, the closer the standard deviation towards the mean indicates stability. So when you find that standard deviation is so much closer to that mean, then it means there is more stability in as far as that group is concerned. Why are we saying that? If you look at the definition of standard deviation, it means it's the dispersion from the mean, the distance between the mean and the several points that you have once all of them has been standardized. So if you know very well, if you're having a distribution of salary, there's always that mean, and then there's a lot of points which are now surrounded that mean. So what standard deviation is basically now the combination of all these distance between the mean and each of those points when they are all been standardized. So that if you find that the standardized figure, if it's much closer to that mean, then it tells you that majority of your respondent or the points that you are getting are concentrated around the mean. That's why Cynthia was talking about stability in, I don't know if it's now in male or female. So if you want to know if males are concentrated around the mean or females are concentrated around the mean, you will have to do or check the distance between 26 and 7 and between 41 and 19. Which one is closer? From my point, I think 26 to 7 is much closer. So I can say, even though males are earning more than females, there is more stability in earning among the females. And the reason is the distance between the standard deviation and the mean for female is closer compared to that of the males. The second thing, we talk about distribution. And when you talk about distribution, you realize that standard deviation can either be on the both sides of the mean, whereby if you establish that the standard deviation is above the mean, that is a good thing. And it tells you that majority of your points are actually situated above the mean. If it's a classroom that maybe you are a teacher and you give out some task, some maths maybe for your students to do, you will have the bragging right as a teacher if you perform your analysis of the performance and then establish that the standard deviation is above the mean, which means what? Majority of your students are actually scoring above the mean. Of course, now I think some 2 days ago, the results were out. And if you want to compare maybe the performance in schools, you realize that standard deviation is one of the factors that maybe will be considered and not the average. And why do we talk about the average? Because average is subject to the number of, let's say, students in that class, whereby a classroom with a lot of students, their mean tend to come down as compared to classroom with fewer students. So that is not an indicator of performance. But when you talk about standard deviation, it can be able to tell you if majority of the participants are actually scoring above the mean or below the mean. Of course, for the second table, which is now for the categorical, if you want to do a comparison, you can say maybe you can see there that we have female managers, we only have 10 of them. And for male managers, we have 74. So you can proceed with the same drill. And in terms of your reporting, you can say the chances of having a female manager is 7 times lower than that of a male. As you can see, 10 goes 7 times into 74. So that is the way I want you guys to adopt. Every time you'll be running your analysis or every time you want to now do report, because later I'll be giving you some assignment and I wish you write for me those reports so that I read the story. I want you to be guided by what we have just done now. Go systematic in as far as reporting your work and make sure you touch on every concept in your table or in the results that you have obtained. Now, up to that point, I believe we are now understanding the concept of select. And he said select is when you don't want to analyze for everyone, but you want to pick certain pattern in your data set and then you focus on that. Perfect. Let me introduce the second part, the third part of data management, unless there's a question for me about select. Now, the third thing that we need to learn about data management, we have what we call split. We have a concept of split under data management. And when we talk about splits, this is where you don't want to select certain pattern, or you don't want to select certain participant or demographic, but instead you just want, when your results is presented, you want the results to be the one which is splitted. Sometimes I tell people the only way you can be able to differentiate between split and select maybe is if you use the Swahili word for these two terminologies. Ukiambiwa select inamaanisha unachagua. Ukiambiwa split inamaanisha ugawanya. So ukigawanya, unagawanya nini? The results. So in short, I might want to analyze gender, but I don't want gender for everyone. I want, when the results for gender to appear, I can instruct the software to show me results for males, kando, females, kando. Hiyo ndio inaitwa nini? Kugawanya. Okay, so there are two things that you'll be working with most often. The concept of select, and select you have to put a condition, and whoever meet that condition are the one who are going to be selected as part of the study. But when you use split, basically it means on the results that you're going to obtain, just separate them based on the groupings that exist. Let's see how that goes. So every time you run select, and now maybe you're done working with select, always remember to go back and reset your work. You should always go back and reset your work. How do you do that? You'll go again to data, select cases, and then there's an option of reset. I'll click reset, and then I go ahead and click OK. If you go and check now your data view, you realize nobody has been selected out. But instead, even if you look at the last column, now here, everyone is now part of the study. Let's apply now the concept of split so that you see how it works. And I'll use an example of gender. And as far as gender is concerned, I want the software to separate my results. So I'll come here and click data, split, and I want my results to be splitted based on gender. I want my results to be splitted based on gender. So I'll come here and click the option of compare groups. I'll click the option compare groups, and then I'll select gender and use this arrow to transfer gender to that side. After that, I'll click OK. And of course, I'm not expecting any results, but it's just an instruction that I've given to the software based on now the analysis that I'll be able to do. So let's just do the same thing that we did under select. So we analyze salary, and we also analyze employment category. And then with both of those skills, it's up to you now, maybe in future, to decide which one works best for you. So I will go and analyze salary. So I'll go to analyze, descriptive statistics, and then descriptive. Analyze, descriptive statistics, and then descriptive. If I click OK, since I already have salary in there, I'll just go ahead and click OK. If you check my results, now I'm getting more or less the same thing that we have just discussed under select. I can see the averages are here, standard deviations are here, the maximums are here, minimum, and also the distribution. So if you check the difference, split, the results have been splitted based on the grouping that you had placed there. If I want to analyze, let's say, employment category, I'll just come here and say analyze descriptive statistics and then frequencies. If I click on frequencies, I already have employment category in there. I'll just come and click OK. If you look from the result that I get, it indicates that the first one is for males, the second one is for females. Now, with those two concepts, it's up to you to decide which one do you find it easy and which one fits or solve your problem the best. If you don't even want to choose between either, you can also use all of them depending on how complexity of your work. I hope we are good up to that point. I hope we are all okay up to that point. Allow me to introduce a third part of data management. This third or fourth. I want to introduce the fourth. And the fourth thing that I want to introduce, I want us to focus more on this variable called previous experience. And if you look at previous experience, if you take your cursor on top of this column, don't click, just take your cursor and point where you have the name of those columns. You will see that you have previous experience, and inside the bracket, it's in months. I'm sure you don't want to be that person who walks around and tell people, I have 444 months of experience. Or you tell someone, I have 315 months of experience. It's okay. You can say that because there's nothing wrong with you having 444 months of experience. But in reality, you sound like that guy who just complicates everything for nothing. Why? Because some of the measure of experience, we are comfortable with talking about years. So how about when you want to do your analysis, so that you avoid talking about 138 months of experience, and you want to talk about years, how about you now convert this variable, which was previously coded as experience, change it so that you have in years instead of months. So what are we going to do in this case? I'm going to show you something called compute. There's a concept in data management called compute. And basically with compute, you're just about to generate a new variable. But this new variable has certain specific that you want, or you customize it in a way that it fits your need. So in our case, we're about to create a new variable, and I'll call that variable experience, and I want that variable to be previous experience in years. So how do I go about that? To create a new variable, or to use the concept of compute, I will come here to transform, and the first option I'll see there is compute. I'll select compute variable, and here I'm asked about the target variable. In short, what they're saying here is, what is the name of this new variable that you want to create? Let me just call it experience. Let me just call it experience. And then under type and label, so I'll click there, and then I label it as previous experience in years. You know the role of label is just to accommodate the next person who might come and look at your data points. So once you write there experience in years, I'll go ahead and click continue. And then what is this previous experience in years? It will be now the previous experience, which is currently in months, which I'll click on it, transfer to the other side. But again, I do what? I divide it by 12. So that if I have 44 months of experience, if I divide it by 12, what I'm about to get there is now in years. So I'm about again to, I'll be using these on-screen items that I'm seeing here And the division sign is the forward slash, the one you're seeing here. So I'll write their previous experience divide by 1, 2. Previous experience divide by 1, 2. I will go ahead and click OK. And of course, I'm not expecting any analysis or any results. But if you go and check your data view, you realize that there is a new variable which has been created. And now this variable, instead of having months, it has years. So if somebody talks about 36 months of experience, how about they talk about 3 years of experience? If they talk about 138 months of experience, they would rather just talk about 11 years of experience. Basically, that is what we call compute. In other words, maybe I can use an example. Maybe I come and tell you, I want you to run an analysis, but this time I want you to do projection or run analysis based on somebody's salary in 5 months' time. So if this is the current salary per month, and I want to understand about somebody's salary in 5 months, you know what I'll do? I'll do what? I'll just multiply the current salary, multiply by 5. And the result that I'm about to get now, it will be somebody's salary in 5 months. That is still the concept of compute. Maybe we try it so that we see. If I want to get somebody's salary in 5 months' time, so I'll say transform compute, and I can say salary 2. Remember not to put spaces when you're creating variable names. You can either use an underscore or combine the words together. Like in my case, I've just used salary with an underscore. So say salary underscore 2. If I come type and label, I will now remove the items that are there, and I'll say what? 5 months, 5 months salary. I'll click continue, and then here I will now remove the items that I entered there. I will come to current salary, transfer to the other side, and I'll multiply it by 5. Multiplication sign is the star. So I'll say salary multiplied by 5. I'll click OK. And of course, I'm not getting any results, but instead, if I minimize this one, I'll be able to see something called salary 2. And this salary 2 is now the current salary, which is in months, multiplied by 5. I think that is straightforward now, and you can be able to understand the concept of compute. The last thing under data management that I want us to focus on, I want us to focus on the concept of pivot table. I want us to use pivot table. And when you talk about pivot table in Spss, this is more of generation of a summary report. You want to come up with a summary report of several variables, and you don't want to be combining them using split, select, and so forth. This is where now you can use pivot tables. And to use pivot table, first, you need to make sure that if you had used split anywhere, you go back and reset. If you had used select anywhere, you go back and reset. So in this case, I know there's somewhere I use gender as part of split. So I'll just go to data, and then there's an option of split file. And now I have gender here. So what will I do? I click on reset, and then I click OK. Click on reset, and then click OK. This means gender is no longer part of split, so you can use it now in pivot tables. When we talk about pivot tables, now I will come here to analyze tables, and then custom table, analyze tables, custom tables. And then what you're about to do here will just be dragging and drop. So I'll drag, let me start with employment category. And again, pay attention, make sure you're selecting employment category. Don't select employee code. Pay attention, employment category. So what I want you to do, and I want you to maybe to just focus on my screen for now, and then I'll give you a chance to do it. Just focus on my screen, and I'll have a chance for you to do it. So if you look at this ribbon here, under column, it's gray in color. If you look at that ribbon, it's gray in color. Same applies to this one. So the drill here will be, we'll just be dragging, and then we drop either on the column or we drop some item on the rows. And how do you know it's time to drop? If the color of this ribbon changes to maroon. So you find that this color changes to maroon, that is the point now you drop. So drag and drop, you left click, and don't remove your hand. Just long press on the left button of your cursor, and then drag it across. So if you look there, it's gray, but now you're seeing some maroon. Pay attention to that ribbon. Now it's maroon. I don't know if it's maroon or red, something like that. But when the color changes, that's the time you drop. I will come to gender. I do the same. I drag, I drop, and I'll also have minority classification. All of them I'm taking to the column. On the rows, so of course, minority classification, gender, and employment categories, I've placed them on the column. On the rows, I want to have current salary. So for current salary, I'll just select, drag it, and drop on the rows. And then I'll click OK. And you can see that I'm in a position to get a summary report on how that distribution looks like. So if somebody comes and asks me, baby, what is the average salary of a male manager who is coming from the minority? For instance, if somebody asks me, what is the average salary of a male manager who is coming from the minority? So it's much easier for me to access that information here, because I'll just look at male manager coming from the minority. So if minority classification is yes, I'll come to this side. So yes. Gender, I'm looking for a male. And who is a manager? So I know he's here. So this one is a male manager who's coming from the minority. And from this, I can see that they are earning around $76,000. If you ask about female manager who is not from the minority, I'll say female manager not from minority. So this one is the side of not from minority. I'm looking for a female, and then manager. You can see it's around $47,000. I think that is much straightforward, and it's easy for you to get. So those are ways you can play around with your data as you now try and run out the descriptive statistics. So this one is basically part of descriptive statistics. And remember, we just said with descriptive statistics, either you do frequency or you do measures of central tendency. And then now you play around with either split, select, compute, or pivot table. And as you will be doing that, you'll be in a better position to now get the information that you're looking for. Any question for me up to that point? Is there any question or concern? Good. So if there's no question, then I have some few areas that I want you to go and read. So I want to list them down so that you go and read. Familiarize yourself with these theories because it will form the basis of our next class. I think by now you have a lot of work. So remember, there's the assignment that I'm here for multiple response. And I also want you to go and read on the theories. I've not said you go and now start doing those maths. Just go and remind yourself on this theory. And why am I telling you to go and read? Because I'll be now introducing inferential analysis in our next class. I'll be introducing inferential analysis. And with inferential analysis, the first thing that I want you to remind yourself, I want you to go and find out what is chi-square test of association. Chi is CHI square. So chi-square test of association. That's the first thing I want you to go and Google or find some material on the same. I want you to read something on hypothesis. And with hypothesis, I just want you to tell me or to find out what it means when somebody talks about hypothesis. And also when they talk about null, what does it mean to talk about null hypothesis and alternative? So familiarize yourself with the concept of null first. Be comfortable with what is an hypothesis, what is a null hypothesis, what is an alternative hypothesis. Apart from hypothesis, I want you to read something about confidence levels. Confidence level. What is a confidence level and what are their relevance in as far as research and data analysis is concerned? After that, I want you to read something on probability value. What is a probability value? Commonly known as p-value. Probability value. Also want you to read something on alpha value. What is an alpha value? What is a probability value? After that, also find out something about correlation. And with correlation, I want to be very specific. There's a correlation called Pearson. So read on the assumption of Pearson correlation. So we have Pearson correlation. Then I also want you to read something on linear regression. So read something on linear regression. And now when we meet in our next class, we will be able now to do the practical part of all these concepts that I've just mentioned. And as we apply them now in real world case scenario, so that instead of just understanding the maths and those theories, I give you now a data set and you see what are the hypotheses, how do you formulate, what are the importance, and how to play around with it. Up to that point, I wish to end my class, as I'll be sharing also the few tasks I have for you. And also feel free to ask any question or any concern. Any question or concern?
Mwalimu, can you kindly share this recording with us?
Perfect. I will do that immediately after the class. Okay, anything else? Good.
Excuse me,
Yes, Rachel?
what correlation?
Pearson correlation.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other person? Good. If there's nothing much, then let me wish you all a good evening, and I'll see you all in our next class.